Yeah, hi, Mia. You know, Buffalo Bayou, what happens to it is all relative to the flow of water that's coming out from both of the Addicks and Barker reservoirs. Now, we are joined by Jeff Lindner. We are used to seeing Jeff quite a bit all day long. Jeff, kind of tell us the situation about the two dams right now.
Well, we have had a very stable situation with the dams for most of the afternoon and into the evening hours. There hasn't been any changes. The Corps is reducing the releases right now on Attucks Reservoir by about 500 CFS to make sure that everything is okay at the dam gates. They will do this periodically as these releases continue to make sure everything is okay down there. There's been a lot of rumors this evening about the dams failing, cracks in the dams. All of that's not true. The dams are completely fine. They are performing exactly the way they're designed to perform. And so people downstream of the dams can rest easy tonight that the dams are not going to fail.
Now, about 3,000 homes near the Addicks have been flooded, about 600 or 700 homes, I think you said, in the Barker area. Do you expect more homes to be flooded in the coming days, coming hours?
No, both the Barker Reservoir and Addicks have crested or peaked, and so we don't expect any additional flooding of structures in either one of those reservoirs. We have about 3,000 homes in Addicks and about 1,000 in Barker. But like I said, they have peaked, and those residents who were worried that they might flood in those subdivisions that we had mentioned a couple days ago now, I guess, if you have not flooded, we do not expect you to flood at this time.
But what about the homes that have flooded? Do you think the water is going to start to recede anytime soon? Or because I know the Corps of Engineers are continuing to release water from those two dams.
That's correct. They're releasing water. Again, the amount of water in these reservoirs and the releases are a fraction, a small fraction of what's in there to drain. And so even though they're making releases, the reservoirs are going to come down extremely slowly. And so those structures that have water in them will likely have water in them for an extended period of time. The homes that are the shallowest with depth of water, for the furthest west homes, will be the first to see the water come out and go down. And then the homes that are closest to the government-owned land or closest to the pool of the reservoir that are flooded the deepest, those are the homes that could be inundated for several weeks. It is going to take a long time to get the water out of the reservoirs. And it's very important that the Corps of Engineers continues to operate those reservoirs and get the water out of there, because obviously we are in hurricane season, and it's very rare for us to go too long around here without additional rainfall. And so we want to get those pools down as much as possible, because right now we're so sensitive to rainfall that even an inch of rain could result in renewed flooding out there.
I mean, how is the Buffalo Bayou looking? Has water been rising?
So for most of the day, we have seen some rises, especially from about the West Belt downstream. There was a lot of renewed flooding today in and around West Belt downstream of Derry Ashford. We did lose the USGS gauge at the West Belt, and so we were a little blind for the morning time. A team did get out there this afternoon and reestablish a measuring device, so we have been monitoring it this evening. Good news is it's changed almost none. It has actually gone down 0.02 of a foot, which is really not that much of a change at all. So from Highway 6 downstream to West Belt, the bayou is pretty much holding steady right now. Downstream of West Belt all the way to Piney Point and San Felipe, that's where we are seeing some rises, and those rises could be as much as a foot tonight. So those subdivisions in that section of the bayou need to be paying attention that there could be some rising water, especially in the streets and possibly into some of the homes. And Buffalo Bayou has a lot of these creeks, little creeks that run through it, and there's some meanders on it. And some of those creeks are filling up and backflowing, if you will, into some of the homes and subdivisions a little bit further away from the bayou.
And, you know, Jeff, you've been talking all day long about, during the briefings, that what happens to the Buffalo Bayou, whether the water rises or recedes. I mean, it fluctuates constantly, right? Correct.
And every time the Corps of Engineers makes a change to the gate operations, those water levels are going to fluctuate in the bayou. Right now, since they are reducing 500 CFS, in the whole scheme of things, that's not very much. So any reduction in the water surface would be extremely minor. So most people won't even notice it. But over time, there could be some fluctuations. So you could see the water go down, and then maybe 12 or 18 hours, you could see the water come back up again. And we're going to be dealing with this for a long period of time.
Let's kind of talk about the spillage issue. I know a lot of people have questions about that near the Addicks Dam on the north side of it. How's that looking? Is there still water spilling out of it?
Yes, there's water spilling out of it. The Attucks Reservoir, even though it has peaked, it has not fallen really at all today. It is pretty much held steady. And so as long as it continues at that elevation, which is about a foot above the natural ground at the north end of the spillway, water will continue to flow out of the Addicks Reservoir into the Eldridge-Tanner Road area and then eastward down towards the Beltway. From what we saw today when we were out there, it wasn't making it to Brittmore. It was turning to the south before it got to Brittmore and heading south towards Buffalo Bayou. And we should start to see a little bit of that water towards Buffalo Bayou tomorrow. Right now, it's a little unclear how that's going to affect the bayou. It could have some effect around I-10 and the Beltway around Rummel Creek. So we're going to have to take a look at that. But we just really don't know how much is actually going to reach the bayou because there's a lot of complexity in the flow that's going on in that region right now. And we're just not sure how much is actually going to get down there and what difference it's going to make.
What about the Inverness Forest subdivision and the levee there? How's that holding up?
Well, the levee was damaged during the event. There was some erosion very near the pump station and control of the levee. The good news is today that there has not been any additional damage to that levee, and the pressure on the creek side of it, so when the water pushes against the levee, it produces pressure against the levee, and that pressure is slowly coming down as the creek is falling. And so the creek has about 4.5 more feet to fall before it's below what we call the toe or the bottom of the levee. And once it's below that, there's no longer any danger to the levee. So we're thinking by sometime mid to late morning tomorrow that evacuation order will be able to be lifted and the residents allowed back in.
Now, I know we don't have a concrete number yet, and you guys are still trying to figure out how many homes have been affected so far along the Buffalo Bayou from all this flooding. But do you think it's going to be exceeding in the number of over 100,000 homes?
Not in just the Buffalo Bayou watershed. Probably several thousands of homes in Buffalo Bayou are flooding and have flooded, along with the tributaries that go to it. Countywide, the numbers are going to be very high. I'm pretty confident at this point, looking at the depth of flooding in many of the areas and the scale of flooding, that we're going to be looking at numbers probably greater than Tropical Storm Allison, and that was 73,000. So we're probably higher than 73,000 homes.
Wow. I know that you guys, the Corps of Engineers, have to continue letting water out of both the Addicks and Barker reservoirs. But what would you like to say to homeowners who obviously they don't want any water in their homes? You know, this is something that's very difficult for them. But you were saying that this is going to happen and continue to happen for the next few weeks. What advice do you have for them?
Yeah, it's a difficult situation. First off, it's difficult when you flood, period. And it's difficult when you flood and the water goes down. And you get in there and you start cleaning up. And some people are going through that process right now. And that's a difficult process. The first time you walk back in that house and see what the water has done to it, water is extremely damaging. It'll take a minute to get over that. But to have water sit in structures for an extended period of time, that's something that's pretty rare for us here. The majority of our flooding goes down relatively quickly, within a day or two. And so to have water sit in homes for an extended period of time, that's something a little different. The only other place really that's had experience with that is New Orleans with Hurricane Katrina, where water sat in homes for a long period of time. And so we saw some of those images when you went back, when people went back to New Orleans after Katrina, what the insides of those homes look like. And for some of the areas that are going to be inundated for a long period of time, there's going to be some very significant damage to those structures.
And finally, in the grand scheme of things, I mean, how is Harris County looking? I know we've been blessed with dry weather now. Is there some positive news out of all of this?
Oh, absolutely. There is positive news. The water is going down. We are not expecting any significant amounts of rain for the next several days. The cleanup operations are underway, and we will have to get to a new state of normal here. There's many thousands of people that have been displaced, that they cannot live in their homes right now, and they're in shelters. And schools have been disrupted. Some schools didn't even get to start. A lot of schools were starting on Monday. And that has all been disrupted. And so a lot of people's lives have been completely turned upside down right now. And it is going to take some time to get to that point where we get to what we're going to call our new state of normal, because a lot of us will now remember before Harvey and after Harvey, just like a lot of us remembered before Allison and after Allison. But we will get through it. We always do. We got through Tropical Storm Allison in 2001. We will get through this. This is going to be a massive effort. I have been talking today to several of the national media outlets, and they have, people want to help. People all across the nation want to come and help. And so that's something that we'll be going through for the next several months. This is going to be a long-term recovery that's going to last a long time.
All right, Jeff, we appreciate you talking to us. Thank you. So you guys heard it, a long road to recovery, but the most important thing is people around this community, Houston, county officials, volunteers, everyone is stepping up, and hopefully we'll be met with some better news in the coming days as well. Guys, we're going to send it back to you.